welcome to The Explainer. So today, we're looking at something totally wild, a true historical anomaly that honestly feels like a literal glitch in our modern maps. You know, when we look at the globe today, we kind of like to think everything's neatly organized, right? That human history fits perfectly inside those clean little lines drawn between countries. But every so often, science and history just throw us a massive curveball that completely shatters that illusion. We're going to investigate a mind-bending demographic mystery today that fundamentally challenges how we understand human history, geography, and literally the faces of our ancestors. Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to picture an indigenous person living up in the snowy, northernmost islands of Japan. Naturally, your brain probably pulls up an image based on the geography of East Asia, right? But what if the person standing in front of you looks exactly like they belong in Iraq, or maybe high up in the Zagros Mountains, or even a remote village in the Balkans? Well, our sources highlight this exact phenomenon with the Ainu people. It's a reality that immediately makes you do a double take. And this contrast really gets to the core of our mystery. We have this deeply ingrained modern expectation that geography strictly dictates physical appearance. Like we just expect a uniform look based on the region. But the Ainu reality, it completely defies that. As our sources point out, what we're actually looking at is a Caucasian, Iranian, Mesopotamian appearance. We're talking robust brow ridges, deep-set eyes, full beards, all thriving in northern Japan. These are features we typically classify as distinctly non-Asian by today's demographic standards, which is exactly why it absolutely breaks our modern expectations. It literally feels like a glitch in the matrix. I mean, if you were to transport some of these historical Ainu individuals to the border of Iran and Iraq today, they'd probably blend in perfectly. Section 1. The Investigation. Breaking the Modern Map. Now, whenever people hear about an anomaly like this, the very first instinct is usually to assume there must have been some kind of hidden epic journey. You know, people think, a group from the Middle East must have sailed to Japan centuries ago. Or they just assume it's the result of recent mixed bloodlines. Well, actually, I want to be absolutely clear right out of the gate. Our sources emphasize that is definitely not the case. This isn't about recent travel, and it's not about intermingling. The truth is actually far more ancient and, honestly, a whole lot more fascinating. Moving on to Section 2, the scientific reveal, a pre-agricultural reality. So the answer to our mystery actually lies in a scientific concept called the Archaic Eurasian Continuum. Now, before massive farming societies took over the globe, there was a much broader, totally natural distribution of human physical traits, or phenotypes, that stretched all the way across the vast landmass of Eurasia. These people, even though they were separated by thousands and thousands of miles, just naturally shared these specific ancestral features. It wasn't about migration at all. It was just the baseline human appearance spanning a massive continuum across the continent. Crucially, in this pre-agricultural era, our modern categories of what looks Asian or Caucasian simply didn't exist yet. There was just this broad, interconnected blend of humanity. Let's look at how this builds across time. Millennia ago, as we were just talking about, these shared phenotypes were everywhere across Eurasia. But then, centuries ago, the world changed dramatically. Massive agricultural expansion swept across the globe. Over in Japan, it was the Yayoi expansion. In the West, it was the Indo-European migrations. And these huge movements of farming populations essentially overwrote the original continuum. They replaced it with highly homogenized populations, basically the kind of populations we see today in Western Europe or the Han Chinese heartland. By the time we hit the modern era, that ancient baseline look was almost completely erased, leaving only a few isolated ancestral pockets remaining. Section 3. Japan's frozen population, the mechanics of isolation. And the Ainu situation brilliantly illustrates exactly how a population gets frozen in time. The Ainu phenotype survived primarily because of intense geographic isolation up on the northern island of Hokkaido. Unlike the mainland regions, they just weren't subjected to constant reshaping by trade routes. They largely avoided the endless waves of conquest that continually mixed up populations everywhere else. And most importantly, their super remote location allowed them to completely escape the homogenizing effect of that massive Yayoi agricultural expansion we just discussed. They were basically a snapshot of ancient humanity, perfectly preserved by their geography. But here is where the comparison gets truly wild. On one hand, you've got the Ainu in Hokkaido, frozen in place because their island geography was virtually untouched. But on the other hand, look at the Middle East and the Balkans. These regions are the complete opposite of isolated, right? I mean, they've been the absolute epicenter of constant trade, warfare, and human migration for thousands of years. Yet, according to the source material, through an incredible fluke of genetics, that exact same ancestral look miraculously survived in remote pockets of those highly trafficked regions as well. So you have two completely different environments, preserving the exact same ancient human echo. Crazy, right? Section 4. Rewriting modern human history beyond the nation-state. The source material makes a really powerful observation here. The modern demographic categories we rely on every single day, they're actually surprisingly recent inventions. We use borders and maps to define who people are and what they should look like, but the true history of human appearance is infinitely more interconnected. The ancient reality is vastly more complex than the sometimes sanitized, really clearly drawn boundaries that conventional history presents to us. So the crucial takeaway is captured perfectly by a quote from the source. Phenotype is older than the nation-state. Let that sink in. The physical traits, the very faces of humanity, were forged millennia before anyone ever drew a line on a map or named a country. The reason an Ainu man can pass for someone from the Balkans or Iraq isn't a mistake, it's a testament to a deeply shared, ancient human heritage that outlives any political border. And the most exciting part is that the investigation into this mystery is far from over. The researchers behind our source material are actually heading to Japan soon. They're planning to travel directly to Hokkaido to visit local museums and dive deep into the archives. Their goal is to hunt down even more of these historical glitched faces, to bring more of this suppressed ancient history to light and to share it with all of us. Which leaves us with a really profound question to ponder. We've seen how the Archaic Eurasian Continuum completely reframes the Ainu mystery, but if our modern borders and geographic expectations don't actually dictate the reality of human history, what other incredible glitches in our ancestral past are out there right now, just waiting to be uncovered? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the map and keep exploring.